And we're back in Inside the Ropes, and we have had a plethora of 2013 WWE Hall of Famers. We've spoken to Bruno Sammartino, Mick Foley, and it was only fair that we gave everyone a little bit of stratisfaction. She is the Raw Diva of the decade, multiple-time women's champion, the one and only Trish Stratus. Trish, welcome to Inside the Ropes.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. So, obviously, as we mentioned there, you're going into the WWE Hall of Fame this year, but the way that you got into the wrestling business is quite interesting because you were a fitness model and then you ended up signing with the WWE. How did that all come about?
Well, are you ready for a long-winded story? I've tried to shorten it, but it's pretty long. Well, let's see. You said it right. I was a fitness model, starting to, I had a contract with Oxygen magazine, Muscle Mag Oxygen magazine, and they were starting to, send me all over the world doing all this fun, exciting stuff. And I was actually, the thing, there was two turning points for me. The first turning point was there was a sports show in Canada called TSN's Off the Record, and I was on that show, and they would, feature sports celebrities, and they would come on and talk about sports issues and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But every once in a while, because Toronto is a big wrestling city, whenever there was a wrestling-centered show, they would ask me on because they knew that I was a wrestling fan, and I was kind of a cool go-to guest because I was a chick who knew sports, which apparently is a rare thing. So I was a special guest on their show where we had they were announcing that WWE would be prime time on television. So before you'd have to tune in at 2 a.m. or something to watch wrestling, mm-hmm. and our sports network here, TSN, was going to have it on at a prime time, and they did a live show because this is what Toronto does. They always do something big. They did a big press conference announcing it, and then they did this live show called Off the Record in front of the Sky Dome before the show, which would be that evening. So I was on that show as a guest, and there was kind of all kinds of moments. Like they kept saying, "Who's the hottest girl in wrestling?" They were kind of just doing a panel questionnaire thing, and the crowd was like, "You are!" And I remember just as a fan of wrestling, just being so tickled by that. I'm like, I'm not even in wrestling, but that would be cool. And so that was my when I went to the show that evening, it was very cool because I got to meet everyone backstage, and I went to the show that evening and had my Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt on, and fans kept coming up to me and they're like, "Oh, Trish Stratus," and I had a bit of notoriety from the fitness stuff because I was on a current cover of a Muscle Mag at the time, and they were like, "I hear you're debuting. When are you debuting?" And that's all I kept hearing. And I guess it was an internet rumor that started after that show saying that Vince McMahon had spotted me on this show and had signed me to a contract and to expect her debut soon. And so here I am as a wrestling fan online, just like every other wrestling fan online. I'm like, "Oh, what? Really? Okay. Maybe I'll wait for the call." Of course, there was no call. And there was just, I would started to get all kinds of press. People would call me up and ask me to come on their show and talk about WWE, and I thought, well, I have nothing to talk about. And I guess another turning point for me was I became co-host of a wrestling show on the radio. It was called The Law, and I got the chance to talk about wrestling every single week. And as I was doing this, I mean, the response was overwhelming. It was like you'd read people online talking about, yes, she's speculating on my debut and what I'd be wearing and what character I'd be, and it was really crazy. And it got to the point where my motto in life is preparedness meets opportunity. So I thought, well, if they decided to call me one day, I'm going to go ahead and prepare the best possible package. So I went down and found the gym that Edge trained out of in Toronto, and I knocked on the door. I met my future trainer, which was Ron Hutchison, and I started training. I said, "Hey, I'd like to become a wrestler." And I started training and, did a few months of training there while I was doing this wrestling radio show. And then finally they put in the call. One day WWE called me. They flew me to Connecticut. I met with Jim Ross in Connecticut, and, he was talking to me. We did a big interview, and he kind of said, the role of the woman is evolving, and sometimes, you got to get physical in the ring. And I said, well, JR, I've been training for about, 4 or 5 months now, so I'm good with that. And he was, I could think of a little check mark on my questionnaire there. And I went home and was met with a contract, and I signed in '99, and I actually made my debut. Actually, almost tomorrow would be my debut date. From March 19th was when I appeared on television for the first time. So, I became. That was what happened. That's the transition. Pretty natural.
And look how far you've come.
Starting as a valet, and then of course finally got my chance to wrestle, and then of course that's where I ended up.
And one of the big female characters that was almost kind of on her way out when you were becoming prominent was Chyna. And there's various footage online that her and Sable didn't quite see eye-to-eye on various things. But I just wondered, what was your experience with Chyna? Because towards the end, she kind of became part of the women's division. She didn't seem maybe 100% behind that direction. What was your sort of interactions with her?
Well, she was sort of this separate entity, and I guess it's funny how she was the women's division. There really wasn't, a division usually means there's a bunch of people competing for this, but she was kind of like, you're China and you are the women's division. That's kind of how it was at that moment. The title was put on her, and of course, I believe, the transition for me and my group of women, where we ended up coming into the spotlight eventually, was because China left with the championship. So there was no expectations, there was no women's wrestling, there was no women's division, and I think because they decided to come back and bring back the women's title in the division in 2001, which is the first time I won it, that was a great thing because it kind of came from nothing, and then we had to build it. So we were given the luxury of being able to build this thing from the ground up. But my interaction with China, I didn't have much with it, actually. She didn't exactly embrace me on my way in, I would say. But, I understood that. I had to prove myself, and that was totally understandable. We didn't interact too much. I know that when we did have to do an angle, she kind of treated me like, whatever, what can you do? And you don't do what we do in the ring. And that's fine. And I understood that because I had to go through a lot of that before I actually had to prove myself in the ring. So that was fine. But we weren't really that close that we had a chance to really interact. She was sort of doing her thing and I was doing my thing at the time. And like I said, there was one interaction I got to smash a glass vase over her head, which was obviously a memorable moment for my character. But not too much interaction. I mean, she didn't exactly, she didn't exactly welcome me with open arms. But at the time, I get it because she was looking at me as like, here's some pretty face who's just going to come and do her thing in the ring. And she was one of many people that looked at me like that I just said, well, I want to show you that I'm worth something more and that I love this business and I will do whatever it takes to prove myself. So she was just another person that I had to prove myself to.
Exactly. And not long after that, you did an angle that I still, to this day, I kind of half feel uncomfortable watching it, but I half think it's brilliant, and it's the Vince McMahon affair that you were a part of, and it's, there's that scene with you and Vince in front of Linda, and all this sort of stuff, and obviously the scene where you were made to bark like a dog was quite controversial, and over here in the UK, they actually banned that scene from television. Like, we didn't get that scene.
In Canada as well.
So how was that angle proposed to you, and how did you feel about it at the time, getting to work with Vince?
Well, I had been working with Vince for a couple months now, and which is the most amazing thing ever. It totally helped me. It allowed me to really, I had to go out there and be my best every single week because I was performing in front of my boss. And I watched him work and I wanted to do him proud. And so that was really great for me to of course, for a great place to come and grow within. But he was so, listen, we knew where our angle was going. We knew the direction of the storyline, and he was amazing about sharing every moment with me. Like, we collectively spoke about where this angle was going to go, what it was going to lead to, and what the end result was going to be. So when that particular angle was proposed to me, it was just like any other day where we sat down and talked about what we're going to do today on the show. And I thought right away, to be honest, everyone makes it so controversial, and I just went, love it. I love it. That's great. It's great. Because I knew where we were going. I knew that WrestleMania was around the corner. I knew that, the more he could degrade me, the more that would make me be I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar, and that was the point of my character. And I knew that eventually I would get my, come back on him, and I knew that it would be at WrestleMania, the grandest stage of all, and who could ask for anything bigger? So to me, it was a chance for me to really develop my character. I had a little drama moment where I got to, be a little, be a character, be an actress, so to speak. And so I welcomed it. And I did not realize it was so controversial, to be honest. I thought it actually makes sense. And that's the thing. Everything I was presented with, I always thought, does this make sense for my character right now? Mm-hmm. And I was very vocal about, I don't think this makes sense. I actually don't think we should do this. And everybody was really great, because the one thing I never did was, I don't like this, no. I said, I don't like this, but let's do this. Or could we do this? Or how about we do it like this? So we were really good about working collectively and trying to make this a group effort. And he, laid it out to me. And there was not like how do you feel about this? It's kind of a weird, it wasn't like that. It was like, hey, with this idea, what do you think? Mm-hmm. I said, I love it. I love it. I think it's so great. I think my character is going to really benefit from this. It needed the Trish Stratus character at that time needed to go through that kind of a degrading moment in order for her to stand up and just take charge of who she wanted to be and who she wanted to be in charge of. Yeah. And I think it worked out pretty good. I'm pleased with the moment, and I wouldn't change a thing.
And now, obviously, you're going into the Hall of Fame, but just before we quickly touch on that, I just wanted to ask you. Obviously, in the last 12 months, there's a lot of divas that have chosen to leave WWE or TNA, and it maybe seems like there isn't that much of an emphasis on a women's division anymore. What do you think of what it's like now, and do you think it's going to be maybe a similar case in the future if it will be rebuilt again and there'll be another chance for it to thrive?
I just think it did definitely go through a downtime. It just there was no. I don't know, there was nothing happening. And I understand, you have to remember, you come from a time where it was like all this wonderful, great stuff was happening week after week. And then I left, and then Lita left, and then Nikki left. And so it really was a time where it just, well, okay, you have to go through a rebuilding phase. But I just don't think it was given the attention. And I mean, it just, it was just lacking character development. And that's what I always go back to is it was just like, one thing I believe, coming from my experience, is the valet to wrestler transition is so important. Lita did it, I did it, Melina did it, and I just think, that's what's lacking right now. It's kind of like, girl, okay, go in the ring, have a match. But it's like, wait, I don't know who that girl is. So when she gets in the ring, I don't know what she does. I don't know why that character is different than that, because they all look gorgeous. Mm-hmm. So I don't know the difference, or why I should be looking at one differently, and why I have to hate this girl when she's really hot. Whereas when you're a valet, you get that chance to develop your character, and outside the ring is so powerful. You get to do some stuff out there that people really get to know you. And that was the luxury we had going in when we eventually became these full-time in-ring competitors. What you learn on the apron, like ringside, is so powerful. You get to learn. You're watching the wrestlers up close. You're getting to watch the fans and what one single movement will do, and the fans will react. It's quite fascinating. And so you take that all in, and when it's your turn to get in the ring, that's what you start applying, and that's what you start utilizing, and that's what you draw from. So I think that's what's lacking right now. Is kind of like, girl, wrestle, go. And I think they're missing that development. And but there's still hope. I mean, I think, AJ obviously has been developed now as a huge character. So when I hope she gets back in the ring, because she's damn good in the ring. I'd love watching her wrestle. So if she gets back in the ring, that would be great. And of course, Caitlyn now, I think we have a great chance to, just develop this character. She's so quirky and fun, and I know this because I remember seeing her the first time on NXT and thinking, oh, she reminds me of me. She's quirky like me, and I like a quirky gal. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we'll get a chance as a character to see that a little bit more. And I think there's still hope. I think that we could do, because there's some great, we got Natty still there, and I think if Natty can step up as a leader and they give her a chance to be a leader within this group of girls, that would be number one, because she is so talented and she could really, really make a difference on the entire women's division as a whole, I believe, because I think that's what always was missing, was a bit of leadership as well.
And speaking of leadership, you're now sort of leading the way by going in the Hall of Fame this year. Did you like that segue? I thought it was quite good.
Oh, very good.
So yeah, you're going into the Hall of Fame on April the 6th. And I guess, how did you find out that you were going to be going in the Hall of Fame, and how do you feel about the night? Like, have you thought about your speech yet? What are you thinking about it?
I found out just before the end of the year, so I was pretty excited that I have a fantastic 2013 to look forward to. So that was, very exciting news. I was kind of blown away by it. And then preparing for it, I just, I'm really relaxed about it. I just think it's going to be, it's an honor, and I feel very comfortable going, and just, I want to say all the thank yous. I want to thank you. I am worried a little bit because I have so many people to thank. There's so many people have been so instrumental in my career. And I mean, everyone from Bubba smashing me to the table to China even leaving with the belt that time. I mean, there's so many things that really I want to put out there, but that'll be interesting how I can manage to get them all in before that dreaded music plays that kicks you off the stage. So that'll be my challenge. It's to fit all the thank yous in there. And I guess I'll have to send a tweet out afterwards to say, in case I got cut off, but this is who I'd like to also thank.
Can you give us a hint as to who's going to induct you?
Well, if you go to trishstratus.com, mm-hmm. you'll see that we've put together a list of possible candidates to induct me. We kind of went through a list of like who would be, who, because I mean, at first what I thought about, there's like a million people I could throw out there. So we kind of put together, I think it was 8 or 9 people that would be likely choices.
Okay.
I can tell you that I put my top couple names in the hat, and of course now Vince has to put his names. So there's still, of course, the whole hierarchy of what has to go down and be determined.
Right.
But I do have an idea, and you will find out April 6th.
Oh, I knew you wouldn't tell me.
Well, you can go vote on TrishStratus.com, though.
I will. I'm going to do that straight away.
Who would you vote for? I'd like to know.
Who would I? Do you know? I think I would like it to be Lita.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think a lot of people tend to just want Vince McMahon to induct everybody because they want to hear what he's going to say. But I always like when there's more of a link with people. Like somebody that kind of went through everything with somebody. So yeah, but whoever it is, I'm sure it will be good. But
well, you'll see. There'll be a definite connection for sure.
Fantastic, Trish. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Kenny. Have a great
Take
one.
care.